It is time for
the very, very first edition of the Thoughtful Travellers Book Club, and we are going to be talking about the art of travel, which I do have here. Ta-da! So this is our very first inaugural chat for the Thoughtful Travellers Book Club. It's very exciting, and we are hoping to... Oh, I can see people joining from all sorts of places already. Now, as people join, what I would love is if you can just put a shout out in the comments and say hello and tell everyone else where you are. So I am broadcasting from Perth today, from the northern suburbs of Perth, not too far from the coast, in fact 3 kilometres as the crow flies, and it's a beautiful summer day. It's perfect. It's about to get really hot tomorrow and the next day. Do you know why? Because tomorrow is the day that school starts. That's why it's going to get stinking hot, so 38 degrees, so kind of century. Kirsten watching from Hoi An in Vietnam, that's very cool. And I think Helen and Kath, who have joined, I can see will also there, you'll be here from Perth. Right, so as I said, today it is The Art of Travel, one of my very favourite travel books ever, which I first read not that long after it came out. I think this is one of the early editions, if I remember correctly. It's been funny to see everyone's got different editions and lots of really cool covers. I like that. Anyway, to start off today, I've got lots of bits of paper down here. I've got paper and my book and the book, and I'm trying to be organised about it. We've got so many things to say and so many things I've heard already from people in the group. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to, first of all, I'm going to talk about some of the things that you guys have posted about oh hello Kim. Kim's here from Vietnam too. Just got there, haven't you? Did not read the book but just wanted to see your face. You are absolutely welcome. Cham from Phnom Penh in Cambodia, hello. Pam from Bustleton, Helen from Perth, look, Kath from Frio, lots of people from across the world. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what I think about the book, and I've got 3 topics that I want to start with, which are things that I think are important about it, but also what a few people have already put in the comments. So in particular, the lovely Celeste, the lovely Justin, and the lovely Richie. I know Justin's online now. I think Celeste is not able to make it, so we'll see. And basically, I wanted this to be interactive, so do comment as we go with anything that you agree or disagree with. I'm going to try and keep an eye on all of it and see it as we go, but my apologies if I don't see all your comments as we go, and I might have to reply to some of them later, but we'll see how we go. So 3 things I want to talk about first. The idea of traveling thoughtfully. I wonder if it was this book that got me really thinking down the path of thoughtful travel and therefore the Thoughtful Travel podcast. I don't know. I would need to go back into the deep archives of my brain, but I kind of feel like it's probably part of it. I don't know. So traveling thoughtfully is my first bit. The whole idea of authenticity or being authentic or traveling authentically or finding authentic things when you travel. And third topic is about beauty, because I think a lot of us travel to experience beauty of some kind, and there's some interesting things in the book about it. So let me start. Traveling thoughtfully. So I've got this little system here. Okay, one of my favorite quotes, and someone else mentioned this too. So he writes, "The pleasure we derive from journeys is perhaps dependent more on the mindset with which we travel than on the destination we travel to." Agree? I feel like all of you will agree with this one, because it's that whole idea that people can travel to the same place and have so many different experiences, even though it is the same place. I don't know if any of you watched the video that I just popped into. Actually, I put it on the Not a Ballerina page, I think, about half an hour ago, and it was all about the idea of a plane full of people landing somewhere. Half of them are depressed because they're returning home. Half of them are really excited because they're going somewhere new. So it's the same destination, but completely different experiences just of landing. And I think the same applies to when we travel. The destination is almost irrelevant in a way, because how we perceive it will be connected to what's going on in our head and what's going on in our lives at the time. And yeah, all sorts of things like that. I feel like, I know when I travel, there's really nowhere that I dislike. I can't find it in myself to dislike something, because I'm always in that mindset of being curious and wanting to know what's different. And I don't know. So I think, I don't know. That quote just really resonated for me. Now, what else did we find about that? Oh yes. Now I can't find who it was who said something about this in the group, because I know someone else said that this was their favorite quote, and it was this one. A momentous, oh, and it's from the beginning when he's just landed in, I want to say Barbados. It was Barbados, right? Tropical island paradise. And he writes, a momentous but until then overlooked fact was making its first appearance, that I had inadvertently brought myself with me to the island. So, damn it, me and all my problems, they're still here. No matter how amazing the destination is, how tropical, how beautiful, how relaxing it looks, you're still you in your head. And I think that's interesting. Having said that, of course, I think that bringing yourself there and then being there for longer can be something that changes you and yourself. I'm just thinking of my week in Kuala Lumpur last week, the week before now, I suppose. And I brought myself there feeling really stressed and overworked, and definitely by the end of it, myself came back feeling a whole lot better. So that is good. Got too many bits of paper, but that's life. Now, I just want to mention one more bit that Celeste pointed out along this whole lines as well, about being thoughtful when we travel. And she said, she quoted, she liked this bit, "It is not necessarily at home that we best encounter our true selves. The furniture insists that we cannot change because it does not. The domestic setting keeps us tethered to the person we are in ordinary life, who may not be who we essentially are." And then related, we may value foreign elements not only because they are new, but because they seem to accord more faithfully with our identity and commitments than anything our homeland can provide. So I have a question, and I'd like to see your comments. Do you think when you're traveling, do you feel that you are more able to think deeply about you? Do you feel that you are able to be more true to yourself, or at least you maybe identify more things about, I mean, I always often feel that when I am traveling, that's when I learn about something I want to change in my life, or something that's not quite right, or, you know, that kind of thing, which is really hard to do at home. As that quote says, the furniture insists that we cannot change because it does not. So you're kind of stuck there with that. So yeah, oh, there you go. Kath has just said she considers travel to be an opportunity for some personal reinvention. Spot on, Kath. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think often the destination for that doesn't matter. It's that opening up of space in your life, or the opening up of your mind by seeing things that are different to home, or just being away from home. Simple, like it doesn't matter where you are away from home and away from normal life. So yeah. And Kim says, yes, no question about it. And Kim, you would know because you have been traveling nonstop for some time now. Kath says, we're drawn to aspects of other places and cultures that resonate with us in ways our home might not. That is brilliant. I absolutely agree. I immediately think of when I was in Copenhagen last year, and I mean, that also connected to our next month's book, or this month's book, The Year of Living Danishly. But there was a lot of things about the Danish way of life that I was really drawn to, and definitely resonated with me more than things that are the way they are back here in Australia. So I will we'll talk about that more when we talk about the Year of Living Danishly. And Pam says, I think being out of our normal environment and routine absolutely allows reflection and change. It really does, doesn't it? I think it's really important when we travel to make sure we build in time for that as well. That's that whole kind of, rush, bus tour or something, where, or maybe a bus tour is okay, you might have time on the bus, but a rush non-slow travel, we've got to see all the sites, is all well and good, but it doesn't give you time for that reflection. So I think and I know Pam who said this, I know that Pam is a very avid journaler, and I'm sure that when you're traveling, Pam, that the journaling is a really big part of it. Actually, we circle back to that later. So yeah, Awesome. Let me just consult my notes. Oh, okay. One more bit connected to that whole being thoughtful when you travel. There was a chapter. I didn't write down the chapter numbers. It's page 59 in my edition. Next time I'll write down the chapter numbers. That would have been much more useful, but you live and learn. When he talks about long trips like train travel and stuff. I absolutely love train travel. My favorite way to get around. I wish I could travel by train everywhere. Anyway, he wrote something I thought very appropriate. At the end of hours of train dreaming, we may feel we have been returned to ourselves. I feel like that's, I don't know. That is brought back into contact with emotions and ideas of importance to us. So I think that's kind of explains that again. Kirsten says, it happens on a deeper level for me when I travel on my own. Yeah. Who agrees with that? That solo travel lets you connect with all of this, personal reflection and change in a better way. I definitely agree with that, Kirsten, because you've got so much more time in your own head when you're traveling on your own. And that's often the times when you have really those, really big revelations, I think. So, Kath, he writes beautifully about this on the trains. Yes, good. Like minds. Yes, fabulous. Yeah, so I think that Kirsten is dead right. I think that traveling on your own gives you that extra layer of time and almost necessity to really contemplate life. So that's pretty cool. Right, now, where are we? All my bits of paper. Oh, one more bit. Justin made a note about a quote that he liked and that's connected to this. The quote was, "I must have been suffering from some mental aberration to have rejected the visions of my obedient imagination and to have believed, like any old ninny, that it was necessary, interesting and useful to travel abroad." And Justin goes on to explain, "I think we've all encountered people like this who can't see the point of travel unless it is lounging on a beach or in a resort as far away from whatever is happening in the world, rather than people like us who want to explore the rest of the world." And I think that those people who can't see the point of travel, honestly, I just think they have never experienced travel the way that we are discussing today. So, yeah. But I liked that point, Justin. That was important. Pam, solo travel, definitely agree. Yes, 100%. Kirsten, you also added, and fresh eyes because you don't bring old conversations to a new place. That's really nice, because if you're on your own, you're not having those same discussions. So, Kate, hello, Kate. I didn't know you were here. Welcome. Having just traveled with my family, I agree about solo travel. Just gives a bit more mind space to reflect. I love traveling with my kids, but they keep you busy. 100%. Yes, that's true. I have to say, in the early days when I traveled with my son, when he was younger, I had really beautiful kind of contemplation time in the evenings, because he would go to bed at maybe 7 o'clock or even earlier when he was little, and I would have a couple of hours of being trapped in apartment or hotel or wherever we were staying, and I could do lots of this great contemplation. And now, kind of annoying, because he just goes to bed the same time that I do, or I'm the one who's tired and he's like, I don't need to go to bed, and so I go to bed first. So it's a bit of a shame. Justin says, it's like not trying a food and saying you don't like that food. Yes, absolutely. One of my pet hates. Yes. And gets worse when people are traveling, I think. All right. Now, the next topic that I wanted to cover was about being authentic. And where's my number one bit? Oh, yeah, Richie posted in the group about one of his favourite bits of the book, where he writes, "In one street lined with uniform apartment buildings, I stopped by a red front door and felt an intense longing to spend the rest of my life there." You might remember that was when he was visiting Amsterdam. And so Richie wrote a simple sentence, but this whole chapter 3 really struck a chord with me. "I often find the most fascinating part of any journey is to be aimlessly wandering through places with no aim in order to try and see real, everyday, authentic life. Because it is different to our norm, it feels a world away from what we know. It's easy to get sucked into Googling, Instagramming, etc. And no doubt they can offer some fantastic ideas so quickly, but nothing beats the joy of slowly bumbling around a place under your own steam and finding true authenticity." 100% agree. You might have seen my quote of the week on Instagram this week, was, I don't know if I can get it exactly right, but it was about intentionally getting lost, like going to a new destination and just trying to get lost, like going wandering with no intention of going anywhere particular, not looking at a map, just wandering. And I think that that's a really useful way to find some authenticity. Now Celeste gave some interesting input after reading about that part as well. And so she said, I used to work in the New Orleans French Quarter. Now I constantly rant about people only going to the French Quarter, nowhere else, and thinking they saw New Orleans. It's just one neighborhood. But conversely, my life working in the French Quarter wasn't inauthentic. I didn't suddenly become authentic when I went home after work. All of life is authentic. So a lot to unpack in there. I think that's a really, really interesting point. I like that a lot. Now, I think that's all of it. So my question for you guys there is, what do you think is a really good way to authentically travel? I actually don't like that word authentically anymore. It's been so overused in lots of situations. I don't know in general life, in small business, like in my day job, my social media business, the authentic thing is so overused that it has no meaning anymore. But authentic travel is something I think a lot of people in this group would be striving for. What's your best way, I think? Now, Katha said, my grandmother used to love to look at houses that were for sale whenever she travelled. I remember the way she would go immediately into creating an imaginary new life in a place she had just arrived in. That is really cool. I love that. I often do look in real estate windows when I'm travelling. Partly my mum was a real estate agent, so I'm kind of drawn to that industry, I think. But it's really interesting to see what's normal in a place. How big is a place? What's the selling points? You can learn a lot from looking at houses that are for sale. And I love the idea of just imagining having this whole life there. I've nearly moved. I've in my head moved to Tasmania 3 times by doing exactly that. Every time I go to Tasmania, that's where I'm looking at the real estate windows. So one day I'll probably do it. Okay, now, goodness me, my third topic, where are we? Beauty. Now, I've been a bit obsessed with the whole beauty and big views and all of this stuff lately. You might have seen my post somewhere in the Thoughtful Travellers group, I think, about our week in KL and how we had these views, big views over the city. And that's different so I'm looking out my window here in Perth, and it's a beautiful view. So from this end of the house, I can see into our garden and I can see lots of trees and our big blue sky. Looking the other way from my table, I can see more trees, the park. Yesterday, cricketers playing, always kids running around. And I love those views, but it's not the same as being able to see this vast view in front of you. And for me, that's really beautiful. So, can I interrupt myself? There's really good comments about the authentic stuff. Justin said, as weird as it sounds, I don't think this is weird at all, Justin, there is something authentic about buying groceries from a supermarket in a foreign country. 100% agree. One of my favorite things to do. So Margaret says, I enjoyed, she says, possibly not the right word, the part where his enjoyment of a place was affected by a fight with his partner. People, yes, I remember that. But I appreciated it. People do tend to like or dislike a place according to their relationship with the people around them. That's so true. Kirsten says, I once arrived in Shanghai on a ship. I went to the market to buy a red plastic bucket to wash my smalls. So I wandered the rest of the day around Shanghai carrying a red plastic bucket, and everybody assumed me to be an expat, not a tourist. It was quite an eye-opening experience. That is awesome. I feel like there's a big story in that, Kirsten, like this, but just carry a red plastic bucket and your experience will be completely different. That is fabulous. I love that. And yes, Kate agrees on the supermarket. All right, back to beauty. Now, my first bit is from Justin. So Justin found in chapter 8, he found it interesting, the part on possessing beauty. Oh, yes, actually, that's exactly the same part that I marked as well. So it talks about the camera being one way to possess beauty and show why it mattered to you. And then the paragraph continues on about the cretin who carved his name in a pillar and ruined the beauty. And there's also parts in this chapter that talk about drawing. And Justin says, as much as I can take a picture or maybe try and draw these things, it's never going to replicate what my eyes saw and what the other senses also felt. My recent trip into the desert of Djibouti is a perfect example. I could see enough from photos that I knew I wanted to experience a place called Lac Abe. Sorry, I don't know about my pronunciation there. However, words and pictures fail to describe the place and just how amazing it was. And I also know the only people who could even understand this are those who also travel. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes there is no medium that can convey how you feel when you are looking at such an amazing place. There was a little bit more in that chapter that Justin mentioned that I just wanted to refer to as well, because I was really taken by what he wrote about the complex factors that contribute to beauty. So I'll try and summarize. So firstly, what beauty is, I'll just read it, a complex number of factors that affect the mind psychologically and visually. And secondly, that humans have an innate tendency to respond to beauty. And we do, if you're at a beautiful place, just listen to the people around you. And, if you turn a corner and you can see something amazing, you hear all of these exclamations that they come out naturally, don't they? It's just impossible to suppress them. Respond to beauty and the desire to possess it. I never really thought about it from this perspective, but we do want to take some possession of this beauty. We want to hold on to it somehow. Thirdly, that there are many lower expressions of this desire for possession, which is the carving names in the pillar and photographs. That's not so bad. And also buying souvenirs. So it was interesting to think about buying souvenirs as a thing we want to do to possess beauty. Fourthly, that there's only one way to possess beauty properly, and that is through understanding it, through making ourselves conscious of the psychological and visual factors responsible. And he writes that the most effective way of pursuing this conscious understanding is by attempting to describe beautiful places through art, through writing or drawing them, irrespective of whether we happen to have any talent for doing so. So I think this is so important. And some of you, I think, have probably been involved with my travel journal school in the past, where we talk more about, capturing things in our travel journals and, writing it. And it's the same thing. It's not for public consumption. It's for you to try and remember that. And we also discussed over the week in the group about drawing. And I, for one, definitely have really no drawing talent. I accept that. But I will still, especially thanks to the influence of my son, who does have a drawing talent and is happy to sit with me and do this, I'll often try and draw things that I see when I travel, because I know that the act of sitting there and observing it to the point where you can draw it is just so much more detailed and so much more memorable than just having a look at it. And I don't know, it'd be interesting to see what the rest of you think about this. I'm very much a words person in life. Like, if you ask me, I don't know, after we've been on a walk, what color was blah, 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 no idea. I don't have like that. I don't really have a big visual memory of things. I don't notice that. I probably definitely have, could tell you a conversation that I overheard as we walked past someone, or, things like that. But visually, I try to train myself to be better, but it's not sort of the things that I notice best. Definitely a words person innately at heart. But that whole power of sitting down and looking at the detail in things, I find fascinating. So I try to do that more. And I think having read this passage from this book makes me even more determined to do that more often. So I think that's a really important part of kind of that capturing beauty part. Now I think they're right. Yep. Now let me just have a look at what comments we've got in here. So, Kirsten, on the red bucket. Yes, I thought of repeating it in other places just for fun. And Kath, I agree. There's a blog in that, Travels with a Red Bucket. I agree. That's exactly what I was thinking. So anyone have any other thoughts on the beauty idea? And I'd love to know, how do you try and possess beauty? So whether it's photographs, I guess we probably all take photographs, souvenirs, journaling, sketching or drawing. What's your favorite way, or your preferred way perhaps, to try and possess beauty? I feel like possess kind of has some negative overtones with it, but I don't know, to own beauty, to retain beauty maybe is better, because I don't think we're possessing it to the exclusion of other people being able to have it. One thing that it made me think of as well is that I tend to take photographs not very thoughtfully. Sometimes I'll just have my social media cap on and think, got to take some pictures, got to share them, blah, blah, blah. And that's not a really good way to approach it. And thinking about this has made me think I'm going to be more mindful of it. I think also, of course, the digital camera / smartphone era has been a bit responsible for that. Back in the day when, if you used a film camera, and so you would have a much more limited number of photos you'd take a lot more effort in composing that picture and thoughtfully choosing what you want to depict. And I think that, technology has sadly made that a bit too easy for us to have just hundreds of pictures, and that's a shame. So that's something I would like to do more thoughtfully. And I sometimes remember to think about it. It's hard to think about all these things all the time. Kate says, the act of close observation through any art form deepens the experience. 100% agree with that, Kate. Absolutely true. All right. Any other? I hope I'm not missing any. I can't see any other comments on beauty, but thank you for those thoughts. All right. Now, we only have a couple of minutes left, but any other last thoughts that you have? I'm curious to know, did you like the book? What will you remember most from it? And would you recommend it to others? So, quick comment on whether you liked it and whether anything that you think you will remember the most from it would be really interesting. I think, to sum up, I hope it was a really good pick to have as our first book club, Thoughtful Travellers Book Club book, because it is very thoughtful and covers that whole kind of genre of why we travel, what's the point of it all, which I know that people in this group all completely understand, but it's nice to be able to articulate it, I think, to some extent. Well, here we go. Here's a lot of comments. So Kirsten says, I spend way too much time taking photos because I love taking photos, but I often stop myself to just be in the moment and absorb the place. Is so important. This has ultimately led me to give up travel writing as a career because I found it too stressful to absorb and treasure a new location and at the same time to be thinking about the articles I would write and how to post on social media, etc. Really important and good point, Kirsten. It's something I'm quite mindful of as well. So that's, very important. Justin says, I think if you can describe or draw something, you've probably spent time immersing yourself in the location. Yes. That said, I think many photographers do also because they are thinking about how the light is falling on their subject. Yes. Oh, absolutely. So yes, I should make that distinction when I talk about, digital photography and it's all too easy. But yes, if you are a more knowledgeable professional photographer, I think that they are making a lot of observations and noticing things. So I think you're quite right. Kath says, I do journaling, video and photos to retain beauty. But my most common disappointment is that I haven't recorded or focused enough on the mundane and everyday. Oh, good point, Kath. So sometimes the big beauties draw our attention away from things that have the greatest impact on us. Very true. Good point. Something to bear in mind. I'm going to have to make a blog post out of all these pearls of wisdom, and so we can all have it. Margaret. Oh, Margaret's a very nice suggestion here. Standing in one place and looking around 360 degrees to find the best photo opportunity. That is so smart. Often I find myself, I'm just in a crowd of people, we're all taking photo of the same thing. But yeah, you're right. What if you just stood there and looked all around? What's the best image? You'd even see so much more. Yeah, that's brilliant. Awesome. Okay, that is fabulous. Where are we? I've got my notes. Yes. Thank you so much for being part of the very first chat for the Thoughtful Travellers Book Club. I'm so excited about this book club because it makes me read the stuff I really want to read. Like I have been wanting to reread this book for a couple of years at least, especially since I started the podcast. I thought, oh, this is great. I remember this was such a great book. I must reread it. So thank you, all of you, for helping me to reread this. And of course, we'll have lots of other fantastic books to read throughout the year. So I hope you enjoyed that. And of course, we have our February book, The Year of Living Danishly, Uncovering the Secrets of the World's Happiest Country, by Helen Russell. So I hope that you will also all enjoy The Year of Living Danishly. As I said somewhere, I have already read this, but it was pre my trip to Denmark last year, and I have been meaning to reread it. So I was actually kind of pleased when it got voted in as the top book for our February pick, because I can't wait to reread it, having had that experience in Denmark. And I know that some things I already remembered from there were really telling. I always think of the thing about Danes are it's very common to have dissections in zoos or things like that are dissections of animals. And on my very first morning in Denmark, we went to an aquarium and they dissected a squid, and in front of everyone, and explained it. And I don't know if I've ever seen that in a zoo or aquarium in Australia, but Helen Russell told me that would happen, and Helen Russell was right. So looking forward to reading this. Okay, if you're watching later, or in fact I'm going to do the same thing, please feel free to add to the comments and interact, because there's lots of really good discussion going on here. But otherwise, that's it, over and out for The Art of Travel. Thank you very much, everyone, for hopping on to this live video. So exciting to have people from all different parts of the world here. Very, very cool. And we'll be back sometime towards the end of February or early March to discuss the year of living Danishly. So thank you so much, everybody, and I'll see you all in the group. Bye.